shot in the hand, and he said that they just suddenly started opening fire. So obviously we do not know if this was somehow related, some perhaps sick reprisals to what happened in the massacre in Hebron on Friday when Dr. Baruch Goldstein, who is a follower of Rabbi Meir Kahana, walked into that mosque and opened fire, killing so many worshippers in the mosque then. Those are some of the answers we may get here, although, of course, the police and Mayor Giuliani may not be able to respond to all the answers, because as far as we know, as of now, the car that was carrying the gunman has not been found. We've had no report that was discovered. We understand it was last seen then speeding on the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway away. So that is perhaps the first step in trying to find out exactly who committed this horrible act and why. It has clearly been condemned by both Arab and Jew and civil-minded people in this city, and no matter what the reason, whether it was because of some type of traffic infraction. As in New York, we all know this can happen, and it has happened in the past when there's shooting deaths because of some insane or inane reason on the highways of our city, or if indeed it was some perhaps spontaneous reaction if these indeed were Arab men in the car who saw part of this motorcade of a van filled with Lubavitch students and decided to perhaps open fire then on the van as if they went across the Brooklyn Bridge. At any rate, police say whatever happened started on this side, the Manhattan side of the entrance ramp, and then the car apparently pulled over on the passenger side. That is, the car was on the right while the van was on the left as they were entering up onto the Brooklyn Bridge, and when the gunman then opened fire into the van. Police have recovered 3 shell casings, 9mm guns, 9mm pistols, which are semi-automatic and widely used, especially by drug dealers and other criminals in the city, sadly. So apparently it was a 9mm pistol was used. Police do not know how many gunmen there were as of now. We do not know if indeed if it was only one weapon. We're told that all of the type of the shell casings and the ballistics evidence recovered from shots in the van, from bullets recovered from those that were hit, from holes that were in the van, that they were 9mm bullets. So these are some of the answers that we are expected to have in a few minutes as we wait for Mayor Giuliani to arrive. This press conference was supposed to start at 3:30. Of course, Police Commissioner William Bratton, we've been waiting for him to arrive and give us the very latest. And this is something that perhaps you had not seen during the administration of Mayor Dinkins, which is a great number of the local Jewish leaders are here. We have to the left Lenny Goldstein over in the right. Then, of course, we have Assemblyman Dov Heiken, who is a very bitter and outspoken critic of David Dinkins, and he is very active in the community. He talked to us a little earlier. And then there are also members from the local community council in Crown Heights. They have been urging everyone in the Jewish community and in their community to just be calm, be peaceful. Let's find out what the facts are, and we'll be getting the facts from Mayor Rudolph Giuliani, who is walking down the hall to the left of me, and he should be in this room in just a few moments, along with Police Commissioner William Bratton, to give us some of the facts as they know it. So, sadly, was this a spontaneous terrorist-type attack on a van because the students were Hasidic, were Lubavitchers, or Jewish, or is it some type of a traffic accident, and did the gunman yell, "Kill the Jews," or was there nothing? Again, police tell us that those members, 12 or 15 who were in the van, the young men, 18 to 21 years old, many Israeli students who have come from Israel to study the Talmud and study the Lubavitch law with Rabbi Shearson, they have told detectives that they did not hear anyone yell, "Kill the Jews," while some other people who were in cars behind them said that they distinctly heard that the gunman yelled this. So that would obviously give a bias motivation to this crime. So we're just waiting to find out exactly if that indeed was part of what happened in this terrible tragedy, and if perhaps it was at all in any way connected to Dr. Goldstein, who, as we all know now, is a Brooklyn-born and raised doctor who studied here in New York City and then was moved as a settler to the West Bank in the city of Hebron, which has been infused with great tension between Arab and Jews, and decided on Friday morning to open fire during the Ramadan prayer service, which is also during the Jewish holiday of Purim. which has caused a great international incident because of that. Brooklyn, of course, festering with the militant from both sides, Arab and Jew. That is the base of where the Kahana Kai is headquartered. They have had a press conference about an hour ago talking about this incident. So clearly, this strikes all the nerves, international nerves, so to speak, on whether this was some type of terrorist-type incident or if it was just a New York crime. And it's sad that I say just, because many people, if you would ask them, would say what they clearly hope in a sad, ironic way that it may have been some type of traffic incident. And I think there would be even a relief if people said that the shooting of 4 young men, as tragic and condemnable that would be, there would be some type of relief if this just happened to be part of a traffic dispute of some sort and not a terrorist act.
Eric, this is Cora in the studio. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Corinne.
We understand there were several that were shot, 2 of which were shot in the head, and 1 we understand is clinging to life. Could you give us the latest prognosis on this?
1 is not expected to live. Did not have an age on him. Sadly, he was shot in the head, clearly when the car pulled over to the passenger side, and the gunman just opened fire on them. Another one of the young men was shot in the neck. They were all taken to St. Vincent's Hospital. We talked to a paramedic from the Hatfield Ambulance Service who attended one of the young men who was shot in the head, and said that he was conscious when he was in the ambulance and was taken to the hospital, and did not say much. Apparently didn't say anything, that he heard people yelling anything. Just that suddenly they were on the bridge, and the glass started shattering and the bullets started flying, and there was pandemonium and panic inside the van with a lot of screaming and yelling when the shooting occurred. And
these are all young men, I understand, 17, 18, and 20 at least.
That's true.
We don't have the age on the 4th person.
No, the van is part of there were a group, many, if not most, from Israel. Young men who have been here about a year. I talked to one who has been here about a year to study the Lubavitch law and the Talmud. They live in Crown Heights among the Lubavitch community, really very deeply religious Orthodox Hasidic Jews. Who, to them, the Rabbi Schneerson is really almost the Messiah. He has forecast the coming of the Messiah, so it strikes at the heart of very deeply religious people who have stayed in Crown Heights. And the one young Israeli person who we spoke to, who was in the motorcade, said that he was hear gunfire during in Israel, obviously, but never expected this to happen in New York. Right now, let me get out of the way, and you will see police bringing in a diagram and a graphic of the scene showing exactly what happened. Commissioner Bratton is entering the room. The Attorney General of the State of New York, Oliver Kopel, and the mayor has now entered the room along with really the top leadership of the city to address this problem. So let's now go to the mayor and the press conference.
Down in front.
Okay.
Before we begin the actual briefing and press conference, let me tell you what we're going to do in the order in which we're going to proceed. I'm going to make a brief statement, then Police Commissioner Bratton, then Chief of Detectives Borelli will describe the facts that are presently known to the police department about this incident, how it occurred, and then Chief of Patrol Anamone will describe the security arrangements in the city that have been undertaken. Let me, first of all, thank Alan Hevesy and Speaker Vallone and Attorney General Oliver Kopel, who are here to show their solidarity and their support, as well as stand with us in condemning this horrible incident. I thank them very much for their help and for their support. I also want to thank Rabbi Spielman and Rabbi Hecht, who are here and have been working with us to deal with this incident from the very beginning. Michael Miller of the JCRC, Assemblyman Dov Heiken, Assemblyman Noach Deer. I moved them up. Councilman Noach Deer and Abe Biederman, all of whom have played a role earlier today in doing the best we could to get out accurate information about this horrible incident. This is an outrageous act on youngsters as they were returning from praying for their religious leader. It shocks all decent people, and it will be treated as an attack on all New Yorkers, because that's really what it is. All New Yorkers denounce this attack and will work together to find the person or persons who were involved in it and to make certain that they are brought to justice as swiftly as possible. Our city is not open for these kinds of attacks. We don't want them, we won't tolerate them, and we will do everything that we can to find the people who did it, or person who did it, and bring them to justice. And it will be done swiftly. From the very moment that the department learned of this, it launched a full-scale investigation that is ongoing at this moment. They are using all of their resources in combination with other law enforcement agencies to determine how this was done, who did it, and to see if this person can be brought to justice as quickly as possible. And the police department is also providing additional maximum security to all of the people of the city. And let me explain that this is out of an excess of caution. There is no reason for the people of this city to be alarmed, but there is every reason for the police department of this city to be cautious and to be prudent. And it's a delicate balance, and I would ask for your cooperation, the members of the media, in trying to convey this accurately to the people of this city. I urge all the people of the city to be calm. The investigation is an ongoing one. It's a complex one, as investigations like this always are, which means the facts will change. Some of the facts that the commissioner and the chiefs will give you now will probably turn out to be somewhat different tomorrow or the next day, because they are still engaged in interviewing and they are still engaged in assessing what went on here. They'll give you the facts that as best they know them right now, and to the extent they can without compromising the areas that they're investigating, so that the people of the city can make their own assessment, because I believe the more information that's known, the easier it will be for people to understand how this incident occurred and to remain calm, and to also realize that the investigation and that the security is in very, very good and very effective hands. And I also ask the media to please work with us. In a situation like this, there are always going to be rumors, and there are going to be false reports, and there are going to be even mistakes that are made, or things that aren't mistakes, that people believe happened, and at various times we're not able to dispel all of it all at once. And sometimes it turns out to be true. Please check with us and work with us. If a rumor isn't substantiated, wait. If it turns out to be true, fine, then go with it. If not, as much prudence as you can exercise in reporting on this, it will really help putting it in a proper perspective for everyone. And once again, I caution everyone to wait and to let the police department do its job of investigating this thoroughly and being able to present the facts as they unfold. Let me ask the police commissioner first, and then the two chiefs to make a statement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be very brief, because I think you would be particularly interested in Chief of Detectives Joe Borelli and Chief of Patrol Louis Anamone's recitation of what we know at this juncture as to the events this morning. But as police commissioner, let me reassure the citizens of New York that the New York City Police Department is treating this as an extremely serious matter, and that until we are able to identify the motive, the individuals involved, and what led to this heinous act this morning, we will be going all out in many different directions, including an expansion on an already high alert status that we have been on for almost a week now as a result of the winding down of the World Trade Center and ongoing jury deliberations and the recent incident in Israel. Chief Anamone can give you some details about the escalation of the police department response to those issues, which has now been enhanced as we move forward in this investigation, not having at this juncture a clear understanding of what the motive might have been. So this heinous act will be solved, and it will be addressed by the best police department in the world, and it will be resolved as quickly as we can to the best of our ability. With that, I'd like to bring to the podium, and he will walk you through the events of this morning as we currently know them this afternoon, with the caveat that we are sharing information with you, we are asking for the public's help, but that some of the information is soft and may change. The mayor and I this morning, in our frequent phone calls on this matter, we're discussing many different stories that changed dramatically from the time we first conversed to as recently as 5 minutes ago in briefing for this conference. With that, Chief of Detectives Joe Borelli. Joe?
Good afternoon. As the mayor and the police commissioner have indicated, things change. A little after 3, I was briefing the mayor and the police commissioner, and if you see that little printout, you'll see 2 shooting incidents on the bridge, and then in a short period of time that I've come back, we now have indicated that there were possibly 3 shooting locations on that bridge. So that's how difficult and how much you have to pay attention to what's going on, and a lot of this information that's been out in the street and you've reported on, I wouldn't say it's erroneous, but it's firsthand, and I'll try to straighten out all that I know and give it to you straight as we get. Can I get over here?
Yeah, you can. I'll do, Joe. If you want to talk, I'll point out as you
We got it.
Take it a little easy.
Okay, the van was at a hospital here in Manhattan, and they were proceeding south on the FDR Drive. They left the hospital about 10 o'clock this morning. This incident starts at approximately 24 minutes after 10. If you come off the FDR Drive and you're swinging onto the Brooklyn Bridge, you come up a ramp, and that ramp is a gradual turn and then puts you onto the Brooklyn Bridge heading toward Brooklyn. The first incident, the initial shots fired, we feel now, started right here about midway on this drastic turn onto the bridge. The driver of the vehicle now says that he wasn't aware of it. He hears some pops. Hasn't at this point realized anybody's been shot yet. It isn't until he makes this turn and he's in this approximate position here where the number 1 is that he realizes someone in the back seat has been wounded and shot. The van actually stops right here. Two of the individuals in the van exit the van, 2 young boys exit the van, and they're standing outside the van. The suspect car that we feel has been described to us as a blue car here, a same blue car stops approximately here, right opposite the van. An additional shot is fired. The driver of the van now realizes that he's being fired upon. He takes off. The 2 people that had exited the bridge are still on the bridge at that point. They're picked up later by another individual. Somewhere mid-span or maybe a little closer to Brooklyn, we have the 3rd incident of shots fired from this vehicle. The number 3 here indicates that little exit off the bridge where we feel the suspect vehicle, the shooting vehicle, exited off this bridge. That's why the initial reports were that he was on the BQE, because if you swing around and go on, you can go on to the BQE. We're not absolutely sure that happened. As a matter of fact, we're pretty certain he didn't go northbound on the BQE. We're pretty certain he didn't go northbound on the BQE. The vehicle with the wounded individuals winds up here on Tillery Street. We have a number of shots into that vehicle on the passenger side. The passenger side rear windows are blown out. That's an extremely large van. You can hold approximately 16 people. We feel there were a number of 14 to 16 people in that van. The people that are shot, most serious injured in the head wounds, they were sitting in the back, the last seat in the vehicle. When that vehicle comes to a stop, there's a scooter police officer. He's on a scooter, and there are a couple other police officers. They're immediately over there, and they put out a plate number. I want to clarify that plate number to you. There was an information that the day before, 24 hours prior to this shooting, a vehicle was seen following the van, and a plate number was taken. That plate number that you have, and everybody has, that you all rushed up to wherever the location was, that was the vehicle. No one of the shooting incident, any of our witnesses, is giving us that plate number. The discrepancy we have is that plate number comes back to a 2-door blue Buick, 89. Every one of the witnesses that we've spoken to are in agreement that the vehicle that fired the shots was a blue Chevrolet Caprice. Four-door. Witnesses that we've spoken to are in agreement that the vehicle that fired the shot was a blue Chevrolet Caprice. Four-door in one case, and another one just says Chevy Caprice. Another individual says a General Motors, right? But it's a four-door vehicle, Chevrolet we've got. So we're going on the premise that it's a four-door Chevrolet. Similar to police vehicles before we went to the rounded body, the old-style Chevy Caprices. Numbers of them made, okay? We have a number of witnesses, and we would help, and your help, and solicit your help if anyone on that bridge, number of cars going over that bridge, people on the end of the bridge, people on this ramp going up, saw anything. We'd appreciate that they call. The police commissioner has the numbers. You can call 577-TIPS. That was where we offer a $1,000 reward for information, and Manhattan Detectives 212-598-0071. So anyone who has any information at all. Now, there were a lot of rumors out there. One of the rumors you're going to hear is there was conversation between people in the van and the shooting car. We have not found any witness that tells us there was any conversation or any talk or shouting at all between the vehicle and the shooting vehicle and the van. We don't have that yet. That's not to say it didn't happen. We don't have it now. That's another story that's floating around out there. The plate number comes back to a location in Manhattan. It comes back to a certain individual. We have reason to believe that that individual is not in the United States at this time. He may have left. We're running that down. What's another rumor that's out there? There's another rumor that's out there. It just slips my mind. The traffic accident. All right, the driver of the vehicle in no way indicates that there was a traffic accident of any type. He says he's coming around this turn and he doesn't even realize it, but there's a blue car alongside of him. He doesn't realize anybody's shot until he reaches position 1 over here. Then he realizes the boys are shot and he stops the vehicle. Then when he sees he's being fired upon a second time, that's when he takes off. Much better.
Chief Anamones to bring you up to speed on some of the precautions we've been taking as well as some of the heightened sense of awareness.
Thank you. Initially this morning, Chief Borelli and I responded directly to Tillery and Adams. Chief Borelli took control of the investigative efforts, and I took control of our plan to apprehend the perpetrators of this particular crime. We began our heightened security procedures long before this crime last week, and we continued those procedures. Today in particular, we had our highway patrol units set up checkpoints immediately on the highways, again in response to initial information that the vehicle may have been on the BQE. So throughout the city, all 5 boroughs, we had highway people at checkpoints observing and looking. Initially, right off the bat, the city was split in 2 for aviation purposes. 2 helicopters went aloft, again to assist in spotting a fleeing vehicle, or if those highway patrol units found that vehicle, they would assist in tracking it down. We've mobilized our city task forces throughout the city. They're being redeployed as we speak to sensitive locations, symbolic locations, religious institutions, to give added uniformed police patrol. And these locations are based on our borough commanders' best estimates, based on their familiarity with their assignments. We've asked for an increase in some uniformed patrols, some specialized uniformed patrols through the evening, and that'll be Highway Patrol and the Emergency Service Unit. Our experiences last year, we all remember after the World Trade Center, we had an increase. People's consciousness was raised to suspicious packages, attacks. We expect that there might be an increase in those 9/11 type calls, and if there is, we're going to have people in place that can respond quickly and take effective action. There's a sector-by-sector search being conducted, and that was instituted again immediately for both of those vehicles. The Chief of Detectives indicated. The vehicle that may have been spotted yesterday, and certainly the vehicle that was used in the assault today. So there's a sector-by-sector search citywide for that particular vehicle. Thank you.
before we get to your questions, I think it's appropriate to also point out and to ask Rabbi Heck if he would say a word, that 4 young men were wounded, some more seriously than others, and our sympathies, our prayers, and our concerns go to them and their families. We hope that they all survive. At least one is in very, very serious condition. And I'd ask Rabbi Heck maybe just to say a brief word.
First of all, in the name of our community, we want to thank the mayor and the police commissioner for immediate response. But more importantly, we are asking all those to please share in our prayers, particularly for Ari Halberstam. His Hebrew name is Aaron Yosef Ben Devorah, who doctors at this point have a very bleak, they feel bleak prognosis. Thank you. And we're asking all to please join us in our prayers that he and, of course, all the others do well.
Question?
Commissioner Bratton, could you tell us if there was more? Was there only one gunman from the information that you have?
The preliminary information that's been developed so far, based on interviews with the witnesses, which are continuing, is that there was one individual in the suspect vehicle.
Is there any relationship, Commissioner or Mr. Mayor, between this and the situation in Israel? Is this a spillover?
There is no piece of information, hard evidence that indicates that. It obviously is something that you cannot exclude, and the speculation is there. That speculation is both with the public, and that's something that the police department is pursuing. But as far as I know, and Commissioner, there's no fact other than the obvious questions that would be raised by an incident like this.
The briefings I've had up until the time we come in this room is that there is nobody that has called in claiming credit for this act this morning. So as the mayor had indicated, prudent people will not rule out anything until such time as we can rule it out.
Now you just don't know.
We just don't know. That's correct.
There's no hard fact that indicates that, but it has not been excluded, and it's a hypothesis that they're following.
Is there any description of this alleged suspect at all? Do you have any indication that he might be Arab by any chance?
The descriptions that have been given to us are somewhat conflicting, as is the information on the car. And at this juncture, till we get a little more definitive information on that, we are purposely not putting that out, other than it was a single, lone, male individual in the vehicle. And the descriptions, Joe, unless that has changed, they seem to be at odds with each other, so we'd like to put that together a little more concretely before we go forward with that.
Is there any indication that this obviously is spontaneous, some type of a spontaneous act, or more of the terrorist type act?
No indication of that as to whether this individual that was cut off in traffic and took offense, whether it was an intended assault. We, as the mayor has already indicated, are not ruling anything out of this juncture because we have not been able to rule anything out.
You say there were no words exchanged at all when the man got out of the car and confronted the 2 young students?
Keep in mind that we are still interviewing witnesses. I believe we are still attempting to locate some of the individuals who were in the van until such time as we are able to get that information.
Yeah, I'd like to clarify. I didn't say that when the van stopped that there was any conversation with the vehicle. When the van stopped, there wasn't any, we're not aware of any conversation with the vehicle. It's just that the 2 got out because he thought somebody was shot in the back and he told him to get out to look. But the vehicle that fired the shot was opposite them. There was no conversation at that point with anybody.
He fired into the left side of the vehicle in that
He fired into both sides of the vehicle. Both sides of the vehicle are hit. On the first and the second shooting, no, the first and the third shooting mid-span, we feel he was firing into the passenger side of the vehicle. The second shooting, when the van was stopped and he pulled up alongside of it, we feel he fired at that point and the driver's side of the vehicle was hit.
What about the rear?
What about the rear?
What about what rear?
Did he fire it?
It was also hit from the rear, I understand. Was the van also struck from the rear?
Well, there were a series of shots fired as the vehicles were moving. He was firing at the opposite the passenger side. Now, if the van was a little bit ahead of him, it might explain a shot in the rear. But we don't believe he was shooting directly from the rear.
One other question. You said that
suspect vehicle was traced back to somebody you believe was out of the
No, I didn't say that. I said there was information out very early that a plate number, and then that some investigation was done as to who the owner of that vehicle is, right? That we're not sure.
No, but I'm sorry, Chief. What said, if I understood, is that there were two vehicles displayed. There's the Bronx Buick, and that you tracked somebody on the suspect vehicle to an address in Manhattan, and that you believe that the person involved in that was out of the country.
Right. What I said that the first vehicle that was given, that was information based on 24 hours prior. That vehicle was observed and the plate number taken because it was allegedly trailing a vehicle. That was the day before, yesterday, not today. No one gives us that plate number, that particular plate number, today on the bridge.
Let me see if I can explain it. Really, the plate number that originally was given, and that some of you have, and traced it to a particular location, is a plate number that, insofar as they can tell, is a plate number of a car that was acting suspiciously 24 hours ago. That plate number has not been given by any witness who saw the shooting as the plate number of the car that was involved in the shooting. It's that vehicle that the chief is talking about when he says that the owner of that vehicle, the vehicle of 24 hours ago, is out of the country.
Can you tell us what that vehicle was doing 24 hours ago, where they were following?
No, we haven't really firmed that up yet. We're still looking at that.
Chief Borelli, based on the shooting and the bullets you found, what kind of weapon was used?
How about a 9mm? Or possibly 2. We're not sure.
Shots fired in all of you.
Well, I don't know how many shots were fired. We've recovered ballistic evidence of at least 5 rounds.
Rabbi Hecker, Rabbi Spielman, can you tell us something about the young men who were in that van, who they were?
They were yeshiva students in Brooklyn, and they were praying for the Rebbe because of a surgical procedure that he had this morning, and they were returning from that.
So they went to the hospital. He had a surgical procedure there.
Correct.
They went there on their own. They weren't part of his entourage.
No, there was no official entourage.
They just went there to pray.
Yes, correct, right.
Rabbi, was it those particular students in their van that was being followed the day before, or was it someone else in the Hasidic community?
Obviously, I didn't get the report about what happened 24 hours ago. I only know what particularly happened today. Maybe the police would be in a position to know that.
Police Commissioner Brett, was there an eyewitness that they had heard somebody saying, kill the Jews? Was that any comment?
I can knock that one down right now, that we have no information to that effect, and that's what the chief is talking about, the rumors, the stories, that we have nothing along that line at all that I'm aware of.
No anti-Semitic epithets.
Nothing at this juncture of the investigation. That's correct.
That includes those in the van and others in the motorcade, because apparently one young...
Let me reinforce that we are still continuing interrogations, that we have a lot of young people who are quite obviously traumatized by having, one, gone through the incident they went through, praying for the 4 young men who are at the hospital, so that we're dealing with witnesses who, at this time, many of them are traumatized, and some who we're still attempting to locate. So we're in the midst of an investigation. We're trying, in the interest of the public's need to know what we have at this juncture, we can confirm, giving you what we have, but there are some things that we just don't have at this juncture.
At this point, some of the young men at the scene told people in the media there that they had heard this shouting. As of now, you cannot confirm that.
I can't confirm that because I have not seen any media reports myself at all today since this event took place.
Owner of the car seen yesterday. What do you know about him?
Information on, as you're aware, there's a plate number that we are tracing and attempting to locate the owner or anybody having anything to do with the particular vehicle from yesterday's incident. And in terms of any information about that individual, the owner, or anybody else who might be related to it, at this particular juncture, till we determine if it has any relevance to today's events, would prefer not to comment any further on that individual or the plate number. It might have nothing at all to do with today. We have, as best I understand it, Joe, not talked to the individuals who spotted this vehicle yesterday, and as to what the vehicle was doing that raised their concern or suspicion. So until we talk to those individuals as to what drew their attention to this first vehicle, prefer not to really discuss it any further. That it might have nothing at all to do with today's incident, and its activities yesterday might also prove to be innocent in and of themselves.
Are the descriptions of the vehicle the same to yesterday's vehicle has been today's vehicle?
The descriptions we are getting, as Chief Borelli has indicated, two very different vehicles. Witnesses today clearly indicate that the vehicle, the suspect vehicle that we're looking for, is a blue Chevrolet, very similar to the older style taxis that are all over the city, and that the vehicle yesterday was of a completely different make and model.
Yesterday's vehicle is involved with the same van?
That I can't give you at this juncture. We're still trying to put that portion of the investigation together.
Summing it up, Mr. Mayor, would you say that what we have here now is a reasonable belief that this was deliberate, that it was a hit? We don't know the motive.
Well, I would say what we have here is a deliberate attempt to murder four young men in a wanton and tragic way. Exactly the motive, we don't know. And that's what's under investigation, both trying to discover the person or persons who did it and what the motivation for it was. And there can be a lot of speculation about it, even reasonable speculation, which they're tracking down. But the very best thing to do would be to suspend coming to conclusions just yet, because the investigation has not been completed. There are many other people that have to be interviewed, many other things that have to be tracked down, and as they get more information, they will give it to you. This is being handled with a great deal of emphasis. It's being given as much emphasis as the police department could possibly give. I spoke to the governor earlier. I explained to him what I knew at that time. He offered any help that the state can give, and the state does help through the joint the task force, the terrorist task force, and we'll be in constant communication with them and with the federal authorities to get their help. So this is being done with a great deal of emphasis. Most important thing, however, is for the people of the city to understand that there's no need for undue alarm. The police department has to be alarmed, should be and is, out of prudence. The people of the city should understand that at this point they should remain calm, and hopefully this will get resolved as quickly as they can resolve it.
Mr. Mayor, I assume from what you said so far that this has not been declared a riot at all. It doesn't have the official city designation.
At this point, there is no particular fact that would allow you to make that determination, and that, of course, is open. That is part of the investigation. Many of the things that we have said today will probably turn out to be somewhat different than today, but that's what happens in an investigation. So we have to beg your indulgence. There needs to be a more thorough investigation.
Did the van have markings on it indicating it was a yeshiva van?
No.
Mark?
It was a rented van.
Part of an entourage?
Again, there was no entourage today. There was maybe another car with there, but one van.
I think I know. Larry, the Rebbe was in his headquarters when the shooting took place. You're talking about an entourage that this van was part of? No, that's not the case. This was solely all alone coming down the FDR Drive.
Did the driver ever notice anything suspicious? Did the driver of the van ever notice anything suspicious up until the point he stopped on the bridge?
The information we have is the only time he became aware of it was around this turn when he saw the vehicle alongside him. He didn't even realize it was there, and then the rear windows get shot out when he knows somebody's there.
Did Rebbe Shearson have a police security before this incident, and does he have one, and if not, does he have one now?
I don't know. So we can get that information for you. I don't know what the circumstances were.
Did he have a police escort in the car?
I don't know. Did he?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Yes, he did today.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That's the mayor and top officials, of course, giving the latest. Let me come up here for a moment. No motive, no known suspects, no indication exactly what has caused this horrible act. They do not obviously know if it was just a spontaneous event. They discount the possibility it was some type of traffic accident, according to what the driver said. They don't know if it was somehow related, if at all, to the incident in the mosque. That's the mayor and top officials, of course, giving the latest. Let me come up here for a moment. No motive, no known suspects, no indication exactly what has caused this horrible act. They do not obviously know if it was just a spontaneous event. They discount the possibility it was some type of traffic accident, according to what the driver said. They don't know if it was somehow related, if at all, to the incident in the mosque last Friday. They will not say. There's no indication that was at all any way part of a terrorist act of any sort. With me now live is Dov Heiken, who's an assemblyman of Brooklyn. Assemblyman, you heard this, obviously discounting 2 points. One, that there were reports that people in the van or part of the motorcade heard shouts of "Kill the Jews." Does this set your mind at peace at all in any sense of what this may have been?
Yeah, it sets my mind at ease, but I think we all realize, based on what the mayor said and the police officials, that it's really very early in the investigation, and we really don't know for sure precisely what was involved. But regardless of what the facts will be in the end, today was a great tragedy. The mayor made it very clear that whoever perpetrated this was out to kill, maim individuals who were on that bus.
Are you clearly afraid that there could be these would-be killers out there aiming for other people, perhaps? That this is they are bent on these type of attacks?
Well, obviously, we have people out there who are very dangerous, who committed a dastardly act today, and they're still out there free roaming. But I'm confident that the police department is doing everything humanly possible to, in fact, come to a conclusion, in fact, find those responsible.
Are you satisfied with what the police are doing and what you've heard here today?
I couldn't be more satisfied with what they're doing, with the security they're providing to communities all over the city, and I'm sure this will come to a conclusion in terms of those who are responsible.
Thank you. Assemblyman Dov Heiken, who represents the Borough Park area of Brooklyn. Obviously, this is a very traumatic incident for many. We talked to others earlier at the scene at Tillery Street about what happened.
I just came back from Israel, and all the tension there and the great tragedy that took place on Friday, the killings at the mosque, and then this here today, and I hope the situation becomes clear. Again, as I said, whatever we find out, it will not be happy news, but I just hope it's not related to the Middle East, because that could be very dangerous.
And if it was bias-related, that adds a terrible dimension. As I said, whether it was or wasn't, it is a horrible crime. But if it's bias-related, it's even worse, because it is beyond merely two people's disputes. It now becomes a dispute that involves entire communities.
I could tell you this, and it feels good, opposed to 2 years ago in Crown Heights, when the mayor gets on the phone and reaches out to the elected officials and told me very clearly, please get out a message to your community that they're to be calm, they're on top of it, and they're not going to tolerate these type of acts in the city of New York.
With me now live, Rabbi Lenny Gutman, a supporter of the mayor. This must, in a sense, strike fear in your heart. Who's out there?
Well, I think for all New Yorkers, but especially for Jews, this really is a shocker. Being the son of a Holocaust survivor especially, you know, it brings memories which many people would rather forget.
Thank you, Rabbi. Again, no motive, no suspects. They do not know if it was some type of terrorist-type attack, or they discount if it was related to a traffic accident. But 4 young men have been shot, one not expected to live. That's it live from City Hall. I'm Eric Shawn. Brian, back to you.
Thank you very much, Eric, and we'll check with you a bit later. I just want to give a couple of phone numbers. Police are issuing 2 phone numbers. If you know anything about these terrible shootings, those numbers are 577-TIPS, T-I-P-S, or 598-0071. They are both 212 numbers. Again, they are looking, so far at this point, they think, for a blue Chevy Caprice, a lone gunman. If you know anything, please call police. This has been a Fox News special report. Of course, we'll keep you posted on the latest developments throughout the day, and a full wrap-up at 10. I'm Koran Mahalik. We now return to our regular programming. We'll see you a bit later.
Abrams, Sam Champion with the exclusive AccuWeather forecast and the Eyewitness News team. Now, Eyewitness News.
Bullets are fired into a van carrying young Hasidic Jews. Tonight, 2 are in critical condition. Good evening, I'm Greg Hurst. Here's what's happening. Gunfire erupts on the FDR Drive and ends in tragedy in Brooklyn. A van carrying Hasidic Jews is the target. City officials call for calm while they search for a motive for the shooting. 4 young men were hit by the hail of bullets. Tonight, 1 man is fighting for his life with a bullet lodged in his brain. Shortly after the shooting, police shut down the Brooklyn Bridge in both directions while they gathered evidence from the crime scene. Hasidic Jews are keeping a prayerful vigil at the hospital where 3 of the victims were taken. Bertha Coombs begins our coverage. She's live in downtown Brooklyn. Bertha?
We are at the base of the Brooklyn Bridge. This is where the van stopped earlier today. As you say, authorities in the city are trying to ask for calm as they try to unravel what happened. In an extraordinary press conference this afternoon, they say that a gunman actually opened fire on the van 3 times before the driver reached safety here. The driver of the white Lubavitch van stopped for help on the Brooklyn side of the bridge after a gunman blew out the rear passenger window of the vehicle, leaving 4 of the young male riders inside wounded. One young man whose injuries were less severe described the harrowing scene to Moishe Wilkinson, who had been following in a car behind them.
The friend that was in the van, he told him that when he was in the van, he heard the bang, the window breaking, and his friend that got shot in the head fell on him. So he took his hand and placed it on the head so the blood should stop coming out.
Some of the young Hasidim feared they were singled out for the drive-by shooting because of their faith. The young students had been in Manhattan to pray for the leader of the Lubavitcher sect, the Rebbe Menachem Schneerson, who underwent eye surgery at New York Eye and Ear Hospital this morning. The students say they lost track of the Rebbe's vehicle in traffic on their way back to Crown Heights. The Rebbe's car proceeded to the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. They took the FDR Drive to the Brooklyn Bridge. The shots were fired at the entrance to the bridge, and the driver finally stopped on the other side in Brooklyn. Despite the claims from the witnesses, police and Lubavitcher leaders are downplaying the possibility that this may have been a bias incident or that the shooting was in any way politically motivated.
Acts like this is not understandable in any form, manner, or shape, and we're living in a very violent times.
It shocks all decent people, and it will be treated as an attack on all New Yorkers, because that's really what it is.
Whether it was an intended assault, we, as the mayor has already indicated, are not ruling anything out of this juncture because we have not been able to rule anything out.
Now, late this afternoon, Detective Joseph Borelli, in an extraordinary briefing, details exactly what's happened as they know it right now. Here's what he had to say.
First incident, the initial shots fired, we feel now, started right here about midway on this drastic turn onto the bridge. The driver of the vehicle now says that he wasn't aware of it. He hears some pops. Hasn't at this point realized anybody's been shot yet. It isn't until he makes this turn and he's in this approximate position here where the number 1 is that he realizes someone in the back seat has been wounded and shot. The van actually stops right here. Two of the individuals in the van exit the van, 2 young boys exit the van, and they're standing outside the van. The suspect car that we feel has been described to us as a blue car here, a same blue car stops approximately here, right opposite the van. An additional shot is fired. The driver of the van now realizes that he's being fired upon. He takes off. The 2 people that had exited the bridge are still on the bridge at that point. They're picked up later by another individual. Somewhere mid-span or maybe a little closer to Brooklyn, we have the 3rd incident of shots fired.
Now, at this point, police say they don't know what precipitated the shooting. They do not have a motive at this point. What they would like is for anyone who was on that Cloverleaf area of the FDR Drive going on to the Brooklyn Bridge who may have seen anything to give them a call so they can try to piece this case together. We are live in Brooklyn. I'm Bertha Coombs, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
The hearts and prayers of the Hasidic community are with the wounded students. 3 of them are at St. Vincent's Hospital.
Tim Fleischer is there now with a live report on their condition. Tim.
And Roz, of the 3 victims brought here to St. Vincent's Hospital, 2 of them suffer the most serious wounds. And one of those, who doctors say they were unable to operate on, is now clinging to life. 2 of the victims were rushed to St. Vincent's Hospital, each critically wounded, each having been shot in the head. Paramedics from Long Island College Hospital were first on the scene.
We brought in the young gentleman who was shot in the back of the head. And on the scene, we split up. My partner grabbed the second gentleman who was shot in the neck. Sorted them out at the scene, split up, and we just transported to the hospital, started IVs.
2 of the young men are in critical condition and have sustained severe head injuries. The other victim is in stable condition with superficial wounds to the face and arm.
One of the victims, shot in the head, though, has what doctors describe as severe brain damage.
Removal of the bullet is not really key. There is tremendous amount of brain injury. There is no localized blood clot that has to be evacuated, so there's severe disruption of brain tissue.
A third victim suffered superficial wounds of the face and hands. A number of Hasidic men also came to the hospital trying to learn more about the condition of the victims. Outside, later in the afternoon, some began praying. The condition of the one victim, though, is still uncertain, as doctors had him in surgery all afternoon.
Until we see what the damage is, it'd be hard to say, but he is going to the operating room with the expectation of survival.
Doctors have not released the identity of the 4 victims. The 4th victim, by the way, is at a hospital in Brooklyn. He is in stable condition. We understand the 3 victims are 18 years old. 1 is 15 years old. And in about 10 minutes, officials from St. Vincent's Hospital are scheduled to update us on the condition of those victims. We'll bring that to you live as it develops. And we're live in St. Vincent's Hospital. Tim Fleischer, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
This shooting really touches a nerve in most everyone, but it's especially disturbing in the Lubavitcher community where these young men live. Their shooting has provoked anger and outrage in Crown Heights, a community that is no stranger to heartbreak. J.D. Dapper has been talking to people about the shooting. He's live with reaction. J.D.?
Well, Greg, this is where the van was headed. It's Lubavitcher World Headquarters here in Crown Heights. This is where those young men are students, and this is where hundreds of Hasidim have come this afternoon to pray for the victims. Minutes ago, Rabbi Yehuda Krinsky of the Lubavitcher movement told what the students in the van told him about the incident.
It was sudden, shocking, stunning, and tragic. Members of the, some of the youngsters riding in that van were splattered with blood, and worse than that, some of the young men who were shot and wounded severely.
Hasidic men milled about in front of the Lubavitcher World Headquarters on Eastern Parkway this afternoon, sharing the shock and discussing the tragedy, speculating on the motive for this shooting.
Whatever the final verdict may be in the thing, if it came out of an argument, so then it's totally just shows that the city is lost control of itself.
We want the city should act fast now, because you cannot go in the city saying it's an accident, this is a joke.
Perhaps it was justice the young men were praying for. More likely, they prayed for the lives of their friends.
I'm very moved by what happened. I mean, I knew the people that got shot. I don't know what the motive was, and my reaction will change with the motive.
Now, at this news conference that ended just minutes ago, the victims were named, and the first one, the one that is most critically injured, Ari Halberstam, is a 15-year-old. The other 3 are 18, 2 of them Israelis, one of them Levi Wilhelm, another Yaakov Shapiro, and the third, Nachum Sisokin, if I may not have the pronunciation right on that. Those 3, 2 of those are Israelis, and one of them faced only the injury to the hand, a fairly minor injury. Again, the Hasidim continue to gather here at the Lubavitcher World Headquarters and continue to try and get more information. We're live in Crown Heights. J.D. Dapper, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Governor Cuomo was quick to condemn the shooting, calling it a vile, cowardly act. In an effort to cool any ethnic tensions the shooting might bring, he said it makes no difference what the race, color, nationality, or motive of the attackers may be. Nothing justifies this kind of barbarism. There's also reaction tonight from the Arab American community. David Navarro joins us live from Patterson. David.
Well, many Arab Americans here in Patterson and throughout the area are just as shocked over the shooting as anyone else. But it comes at a time when tensions between Arabs and Jews are very high, a time when rumors and innuendos can almost be as damaging as the bullets themselves. As Arab Americans flourish in communities such as Patterson, Jersey City, and West New York, they continue to find themselves drawn into the horror and violence that goes on every day in the Middle East. It was just this Sunday that hundreds rallied in Patterson to voice their outrage over the massacre in the West Bank at the hands of a Jewish extremist. Today, one of the organizers of that rally denounced this morning's senseless shooting of Hasidic students near the Brooklyn Bridge, knowing some may want to drag the Arab community into this act of violence as well.
It's very unfortunate, and I'm really saddened to hear about it. I think those young kids, they're 17 or 18 years old, were at the wrong place at the wrong time.
The motive behind the shooting is still being investigated, but the United Nations representative for the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee hopes people of Arab descent are not indicted by the rumors and innuendos surrounding the incident.
I'm very concerned that when any incident like this happens, that Arabs should be blamed for it, Arab Americans. There is tremendous discrimination against Arab Americans in this country.
Mayor Giuliani moved quickly to say there is no information indicating the shooting was related to the violence in the Middle East. And many representatives of the Arab American communities believe this incident will not add to the friction. But the influential head of the American Arab Relations Committee feels differently.
I'm afraid that this will increase tension. I hope not, and I've been trying my best to prevent a development such as black-Jewish confrontation, and I hope we will not have an Arab-Muslim-Jewish conflict.
Mayor Giuliani in his press conference called this shooting an attack on all New Yorkers, and he hopes extremists will not try to take advantage of the situation and make it worse. Reporting live from Patterson, David Navarro, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
This shooting drew quick attention from the United States Justice Department. FBI Director Louis Freeh says the Bureau is following this case and it's prepared for any potential problems which may arise.
Well, we've had continuing concerns in the federal government with respect to all the agencies regarding terrorism, which was highlighted last February by the incidents in New York. That's an ongoing concern for which we give great care and preparation.
Director Freeh also says New York police and the FBI will continue to cooperate in this case.
Recapping now our top story, a gunman opened fire this morning on a van carrying a group of Hasidic Jews driving from Manhattan to Brooklyn. 4 young men were hit by bullets that shattered the windows of their van. The gunman escaped. At this hour, 2 of the victims are in critical condition. The mayor has called the shooting an outrageous act and vows justice will be served. Police patrols have been increased at religious sites in certain neighborhoods. A massive investigation by city and federal officials is underway. Police are asking anyone with information to call their hotline.
All right, big story, but there is, of course, other news on this very busy day. Israel's gesture to calm angry Palestinians after the massacre in the mosque, and we take you on the road to Hebron. It's a dangerous and frightening trip.
Also, what are your chances for survival if you suffer cardiac arrest in New York?
Headquarters, though, men are coming. They're coming at all hours. They're coming here to pray.
Tonight, an unattended suitcase caused pandemonium. Security surrounding the Lubavitch headquarters is as tight as a drum. But suddenly someone spots a black suitcase.
Let's use this whole thing here. Go across, go over to the subway. Get the subway back.
It's becoming a fact of life. Cops protecting places of worship. Today's shooting by the Brooklyn Bridge has prompted an all-out effort by the cops to protect everyone.
This heinous act will be solved and it will be addressed by the best police department in the world, and it will be resolved as quickly as we can to the best of our ability.
Heightened security is obvious near El Al at Kennedy Airport. Throughout our city, it's clear times have changed. On Atlantic Avenue, police stood guard outside an Islamic temple. Few Muslims would speak with us, but this man, who calls himself Abdullah, agreed.
We're talking about security, the police car here with the Muslims.
Security, but for what?
Do you feel safe in the city now?
I live in America.
So you do feel safe?
Yes.
A bright light did shine over the dark, cold streets of Crown Heights tonight. Amidst all the anguish and heartbreak, a wedding was held under the chuppah at the Lubavitch headquarters. A couple said their vows.
Do you feel safe right now in the city?
I feel very, very safe in the city. Especially with the mayor, especially with the police commissioner, especially with the police. Very, very safe in the city.
I see there's a lot of police officers around. Are you pleased to have them here?
Well, the police officers are around already since Saturday.
And his feeling seems to be echoed throughout this community. There is a feeling of optimism. There is a feeling of safety. So we'll end this story on a rather good note. Reporting from Crown Heights, I'm Penny Crone, Fox News. Now back to you, Coran.
Thank you very much, Penny, for that update. John?
Well, Coran, you do have to ask yourself, is New York being drawn in again to the...
There is a feeling of safety. So we'll end this story on a rather good note. Reporting from Crown Heights, I'm Penny Crone, Fox News. Now back to you, Coran.
Thank you very much, Penny, for that update. John?
Well, Coran, you do have to ask yourself, is New York being drawn in again to the violence and the...
City calm. I think at this point, everyone should be cautioned to remain calm. There is no suggestion that there is any connection between this and any other particular incident.
But the fact is, connection or not, police and security officials have been waiting for just this kind of attack.
We will be going all out in many different directions, including an expansion on an already high alert status that we have been on for almost a week now as a result of the winding down of the World Trade Center and ongoing jury deliberations and the recent incident in Israel.
Few experts believe the World Trade Center deliberations or the massacre at the mosque would go.
Mayor Giuliani very shortly is going to appear to bring us up to the minute on the police investigation into the attack yesterday on the Brooklyn Bridge. One suspect is in custody. His identity has not yet been disclosed. We are told there may be 2 more suspects. Police say also the motive for the shooting yesterday may have been politically motivated. You'll recall that 4 Hasidic students were wounded. 1 has been declared legally dead, clinically brain dead. Another is not expected to survive. Mayor Giuliani will hold a news conference at City Hall a few minutes from now. We're going to bring it to you live when it happens. Until then, I invite you to stay with us, and I'm Bill Butel.
This has been a special report from Channel 7 Eyewitness News. We now return to our regular programming. Here's Sam Champion.
Good afternoon.
Here's Bill Butel.
Good afternoon once again. We've been waiting at City Hall this afternoon for Mayor Giuliani to bring us up to date on the police investigation into yesterday's attack on the Brooklyn Bridge, that attack in which 4 Hasidic students were shot as they rode in a van back to Brooklyn. We are told at City Hall that the mayor and the police commissioner are not yet ready to bring us a definitive report on the investigation, and we'll bring that to you as the afternoon goes on and when that report is available. However, we are going to City Hall not for the mayor, as I suggested, but for a report from doctors, or by doctors, I should say, from St. Vincent's Hospital. It will be a comprehensive briefing on the condition of all the victims of yesterday's shooting. We go now to City Hall.
He went home with superficial wounds in the shooting. We've also treated and cared for more critically injured patients. Dr. King will discuss in just a moment. Malcolm Sotonkin remains in critical condition. He is being attended to by our neurosurgeon, Dr. Hirschfield.
13, do you hear me?
Clinically declared brain dead. I apologize, that was a misstatement. That is true of Mr. Halbertson. Halberstram. Thank you. The other patient remains in critical condition and continues to be cared for and treated and underwent...
We did have some audio problems there, as you probably understood, but to repeat what this gentleman said, Aaron Halberstam, a 20-year-old young man, has been declared legally dead, brain dead. That was what he said over the inadequate audio. Now we go back to City Hall.
Family of one of the patients, critically ill patients, arrived this morning from Israel and is being seen and taken care of at St. Vincent. Unless you have any questions of myself, I'll introduce Dr. Lambert King, and he can discuss the medical condition and prognosis of the patient.
Mr. Malcolm Sotonkin was the patient that Mr. Tonko referred to who had neurosurgery done yesterday for a bullet wound which entered the right posterior portion of his head, went through a part of the brain called the cerebellum and up into the right temporal lobe of the brain. The operation was performed in order to relieve swelling which occurs in such a brain injury, and in that operation the tissue that was damaged and the blood that has accumulated and some of the bone fragments from the bullet wound were removed. The operation was effective in relieving the pressure which threatened to affect the brainstem of Mr. Sosanten, and at this time we're in a very critical period in terms of his treatment. The prognosis in an injury, the outlook in an injury like this is extremely poor, but we're doing everything that can possibly be done medically, and along with all of his family and his community and our community and everyone in the hospital is praying for him. And we hope that we can continue to maintain him and for him to have time to improve, but as Dr. Hirschfeld has said in the briefings at the hospital and with some of his family, the outlook in this type of an injury is not good. And again, we'll keep trying and hope that we can get through this critical period and see if we'll have some chance of recovery. Unfortunately, Mr. Halberstam, by the time that he arrived at the hospital yesterday, had irreversible brain injuries due to a bullet which entered the back part of his head and went through the upper part of the brain, destroying a large part of the cerebral cortex, and the outlook for any recovery from the very beginning instantly was simply zero. No neurosurgical procedure was performed on him. He is presently on life support and meets what is considered in New York State to be the measures of brain depth. And he's on a life support system, and we, as Mr. Thompson indicated, respect the wishes of the family. At this time, we continue ventilatory support with a respirator, and we will be respecting their wishes as long as they express them to us, and we will be counseling and assisting them in this period of great grief and difficulty.
Dr. King will take a few questions if you have any.
Dr. King, I'm not sure if this is you or Rabbi Stillman. This is about the difference between the state definition of death and the Lubavitch police essentially that death hasn't occurred because of heart stop.
Well, we apologize for the difficult audio. Let me summarize what we know from what Dr. King told us and from other information that has come into our newsroom. Number one, Dr. King, who is attached to St. Vincent's Hospital, where all four of the victims were taken after the shooting yesterday, tells us that Aaron Halberstam, age 20, is legally dead. Now, he is still on life support system. We have been told, and the doctor said that he had zero chance of recovery given the massive kind of wound to the head that he had. The second badly wounded young man, Nachum Sosanten, age 18, his prognosis is not very good at all. They had lengthy surgery, performed lengthy surgery on him. He'd been shot in the back of the neck, just in the bottom of the brain, and that is a very, very difficult and sensitive place to be shot, and they said that he is still being kept alive, again on life support, and they're doing everything they medically can to keep him alive, but the prognosis for Nachum Sosanten is very bad indeed. Levi Wilhelm, age 18, was shot in the abdomen. He is in as satisfactory condition as you can be, and Yaakov Shapiro, age 18, was wounded by glass shards that hit him when the windows were shot out of the van in which he was traveling. Now, we are told that one suspect is in custody and that there are two other suspects, maybe. We have been told, as I mentioned at the very top of this insert into the programming, that the City Hall is not yet ready to give a definitive report on the police investigation into the shooting yesterday, but we are told one person is in custody, I should say, and the two others, there may be two other suspects. Also, the blue Chevrolet that was mentioned yesterday very early on has apparently been found, and we are told again that the suspect who is in custody took the Chevrolet to a body shop to be repaired after the incident in which his car was shot up too a bit itself. He apparently shot through the passenger side window, and he went to have that repaired at some place in Brooklyn. That set off a series of alarms. People called the police and said, we have somebody here who looks as though he might have had something to do with the shooting of the van on the Brooklyn Bridge yesterday mid-morning, about 10:30. Once again, we expect still this afternoon to have from City Hall, from Mayor Giuliani and from Police Commissioner Bratton, as comprehensive a report on the police investigation as they are able to give us. When we are ready to bring that to you, we'll interrupt whatever programming we're in and go down to City Hall for that report. Until then, and until our 5 o'clock news and 6 o'clock news, I'm Bill Butel. I thank you very much for being with us.
This has been a special report from Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
You know, we've been waiting this afternoon for Mayor Rudy Giuliani to bring us up to date on the police investigation into the shooting yesterday, the shooting of a Hasidic van in which 4 young men were shot. We're going now to City Hall and Mayor Giuliani.
Is everybody ready and ready to go? The massive and swift response of our city has sent a signal that our streets are not open to bloodshed and our communities will not tolerate hatred. We're saying as a community that if you violate us, as this shooting violated every one of us, the largest and most effective police department in the United States will use every lawful technique to track you down. And when this police department is motivated to act, there is nothing quite like it in law enforcement. Their response here can only be described as stunning. Credit goes to Police Commissioner Bill Bratton for the leadership he and his new team exercised in making an arrest so quickly. They did so by working so well together. At any other time, this would be a textbook case in solving a complex crime. But for a new team to do this so well is an extraordinary accomplishment. Much of this remarkable police work was coordinated by Chief Jack Hill, Assistant Chief of Manhattan Detectives, and a 37-year veteran of the force who commanded a group of similarly experienced detectives from Brooklyn and Manhattan under Chief Borelli, who has remained personally involved in this from the very beginning. Many of these detectives have been working for over 24 hours, and some of them are here today, and the mayor salutes them because they're the reason why we were able to bring this to such a swift result. They've worked tirelessly and with great skill. I also want to thank the Federal Bureau of Investigation and Bill Galvin in particular and the Joint Terrorism Task Force for their assistance and their continuing support. Also, my congratulations and the deepest respect to someone who used to do this work, to Bob Morgenthau and his office, who worked through the night up to this very moment in guiding this effort. Their expert legal guidance and their careful handling of this case are contributions which will be realized as the case goes forward. I also want to say a special word of thank you to the media, print, television, and radio for responsible reporting and for patience in contacting us to correct false rumors, as well as your patience in the developing facts, sometimes changing as they change from one witness to another. The way in which you reported that, you will see as this all unfolds in putting the facts out, and our call for help allowed the great people of this city to be of critical assistance, turning New York City from a city where people could hide into a city where a fugitive could find no quarter. Also, a great deal of credit must go to the leadership of the Jewish communities. Their cooperation, their prayers, and their dignity with which they face this act of vicious hostility ennobles all New Yorkers. I also thank those who called in, who helped us, who gave assistance in so many different ways, both in the investigation and in keeping the city calm, in particular in the Arab community, because they helped in resolving this case to the point at which it has been resolved and keeping New York calm. And just one final word to keep this incident in perspective. In the life of New York City, indeed in the life of humanity everywhere, there has been an illogical and destructive tendency to characterize a community by the worst people in that community. But simply because it has happened in the past is absolutely no reason for us to let it continue. It's time to put that behind us. This act of evil is not the act of a people, it's the act of a person or persons. Let's show America and the world that we can make that distinction, that we are not only the best of cities, but the wisest of cities. In the last 24 hours, we have all seen how well city law enforcement has served us. They couldn't possibly have done it better. Now let our legal system serve us just as well. New Yorkers may not be able to put aside the anger, the fear, and the confusion of this tragedy, but we can rise above it and demonstrate to the world that we are one people, united by respect for the law and compassion for our neighbor. It is a particular privilege to introduce the police commissioner. As I said before, as a new police commissioner, to be able to pull together his new team with all of the experienced detectives and officers, and to do this so quickly is a great tribute to his leadership and a great tribute to the department that once again proves that it is not mere rhetoric to say that this is the finest police department in the world.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Before getting into the details of the arrest, which I'm pleased to announce, I'd like to extend my compliments to the men and women of the New York City Police Department who, over the last 30 hours ago, this city was stunned by an act so violent that it repulsed all of us. But within 30 hours, the men and women of this force have brought it to a successful conclusion, particularly the officers and detectives assigned to the Manhattan North, Manhattan South Detective Homicide Bureau, the Brooklyn Homicide Bureau, our ballistics unit that conducted many tests for us very, very quickly. All of their work has contributed significantly, as well as the detective squads of the 5th and 7th precincts. As police commissioner, it's my privilege to lead such men and women. We have arrested one individual, a gentleman by the name of Rashid Baz. He is, we believe, a Lebanese national who entered this country in 1984 on a student visa. We are working with immigration to determine his current status. He resides at 242 45th Street in the Brooklyn section of the city. He is being charged with 15 counts of attempted murder, 3 of assault in the first degree, 1 assault in the second degree, and numerous weapons charges. During the last few hours, detectives of this department executed 4 search warrants at Mr. Baz's apartment, a hallway adjacent to that apartment, a body shop in the Brooklyn area of the city, and the car that we were seeking yesterday, which has now been taken into custody and has been identified as a 1978 Chevy Impala. During the execution of those search warrants, we recovered the following: a 9mm Luger Cobra submachine pistol with some 50 rounds of ammunition and a silencer for the same weapon, a loaded 9mm Glock semi-automatic pistol, a fully loaded 12-gauge semi-automatic shotgun, commonly known as a street sweeper, loaded with a dozen 12-gauge shotgun shells, a .380 fully loaded semi-automatic weapon, a bulletproof vest, and a stun gun. We, as I've already indicated, taken into custody also the vehicle that we were seeking in reference to this tragic incident yesterday. With that, I'd like to present the district attorney to say a few words to you prior to opening up and introducing Chief Timoney. Immediately upon conclusion of his remarks, will be available for whatever questions you may have. Sir?
Well, I want to congratulate the mayor and the police commissioner and the detectives who worked on this case for really handling this in an exemplary fashion. I mean, every lead was followed carefully and thoroughly, and there's always a bit of luck in any one of these investigations, but that luck only comes into play when you do all the legwork that's necessary. And here, all the legwork was done and the results are outstanding. And the assistants in my office worked very closely, as always, with the detectives in terms of interviewing witnesses, preparing search warrants, and giving legal advice where it was indicated. I think it's a remarkable result to have the shooter in custody within a day, and within a day. Of course, the investigation is not over. There's a long ways to go in any case like this. The one thing we know was that this man with the weapons described by the police commissioner was not going deer hunting.
As most of you are aware, we had a heightened security package beginning last Friday, which we ratcheted up a notch yesterday and is in place as we speak. Areas throughout the city, sensitive locations, signature buildings, and areas that we have identified as needing extra patrols are getting such patrols. Precinct commanders and borough commanders are reaching out to people in the communities and are available for assistance. The one thing we would ask is that anytime rumors come up, please check the facts. Check the facts with the local precinct commander, who I guarantee will get back to you. And in all events, don't act out emotionally on rumors. Get the facts, and if there are any problems, we will take care of all the problems.
Can you tell us what the motive was, or do you feel that the motive could be related to the massacre at the mosque in Israel?
This matter is, as the district attorney has indicated, is still under investigation. We prefer at this juncture not to comment on any possible motive in this matter.
Do you know if the man acted alone, or if he and how much in advance this was planned out?
The gentleman that we have arrested today, we are comfortable that he is the shooter, if you will, the individual at the bridge yesterday. Apart from that, this investigation is still ongoing and still continuing, and under the guidance of the district attorney's office. I'm sorry, sir?
Check out on his weapons?
We have a number of ballistics-related materials that this case is strongly supported by some of the ballistics information that we have been dealing with.
Commissioner, is there any indication that he is part of the suspect?
Actually, we have you to thank for that. That during the press conferences that we gave out repeatedly and asked for assistance, and the information that helped to move this case forward so quickly, significant portions of it were generated by individuals who were responding to our requests for help that were transmitted by outlets. Yes, they did. They did. They did. Significant.
Commissioner, you ruled out yes.
Of perhaps a political group, that he had a political motive for this? Is there any indication he was
As I indicated, the investigation is continuing. A number of items were recovered during our respective searches, and we'll continue to explore all options in this matter.
You have talked to 2 other suspects. Do you think it's likely that those people will be arrested? We understand you do have...
The investigation, as I indicated, is far-reaching. It, as the mayor has indicated, that we're going to keep all of our options open till we're satisfied, and Mr. Morgenthau is satisfied that we've closed all loose ends. We are continuing to talk to a number of people relative to this incident, both those that are continuing to provide information as well as others. So I'd like to stay away from some of the specifics. The district attorney has an active and ongoing investigation with us, and I don't want to taint that in any way.
Can you elaborate on the assistance from the Arab community?
The assistance in the Arab community came in much the same way that much of the assistance came over phones, people calling in with related information that helped us to quickly zero in on the individual that we have in custody. It was unsolicited, it was solicited in the sense of a general solicitation, but it was very quickly forthcoming, and it contributed significantly to us solving this very quickly.
Did it have to do with his car or with him himself or statements he made?
I prefer not to get into the details of what we, at this juncture, what we received, other than that that assistance was significant.
Commissioner, if the Jewish community out there in Brooklyn has concern about a possible terrorist conspiracy being involved, Can you do anything to allay their fears in terms of what you're going to do now and in the future?
Well, one, I think the New Yorkers collectively should be proud of the restraint that's been shown by the Jewish community, and particularly the community that was most afflicted by this tragic incident. They have shown remarkable restraint, if you will. And I would expect that now that we have arrested the shooter in this incident, that restraint will continue. And I hope that they have a very high comfort level, that the mayor, myself, the district attorney, will pursue this wherever it may go, but that I would seek to allay any of those fears. As Chief Timoney has indicated, the department remains in a very high state of alert. We still have the World Trade Center jury out deliberating, and the unresolved issues relative to the shooting in Israel a few days ago. So the issue at hand for New York City, we believe, has been successfully resolved with this arrest.
Does this man have a history of criminal activity?
I'd prefer not to comment on that at this time. We're, as I indicated, still attempting to identify his status as to his immigration status with immigration officials.
When was his visa as a student? When was
He came into this country in 1984.
When was it expired, the student visa?
We are looking to determine that with the immigration authorities.
Anything about the car, the second car, the suspicious car that was trailing the van 24 hours before? Can you talk
I'd
about
like
that?
to, the vehicle you're talking about is a 1989 Oldsmobile. I think we can all feel quite comfortable ruling that out, and as the mayor has indicated, roll that vehicle into the museum and forget about it. It does not have anything to do with this case, as best we can determine.
What does he do? Does he have a wife? Does he have...
I don't have any of those details at this moment. That we have just recently charged him. We have been talking with him. We have recently charged him. I don't have any of those specifics at this time. I'm sorry.
What was his demeanor like during the interrogation? Was he cooperative?
That I'd prefer not to comment on that at this juncture.
Commissioner, the district attorney said that he wasn't going deer hunting, but was he hunting for young Hasidic men?
That goes to the motive, which we have not commented on, and which the district attorney, as he moves his case forward, will focus on.
Was there any kind of a traffic incident? Did the van try to cut a vehicle off? Could that have conceivably enraged him? I mean,
At this juncture, it has, talking to the driver of the vehicle that was shot at, that individual indicates that he was not aware of anything that would have precipitated this action relative to a cutting off or a traffic incident. So that's what we're going on.
what about Mr. Baz? What has he indicated about that?
I prefer not to comment on anything that Mr. Baz has said or has not said.
Has Mr. Baz done legal representation?
I'm sorry?
Does he have legal representation yet?
He has requested an attorney.
What attorney? Can you say what attorney he has requested?
That, I'm not aware of that, sir. If he's asked for one by name. I know a few that will probably line up around the block to represent him, but...
Is this premeditated? Premeditated in any way, I mean?
That would go to motive, and that's going to be up to Mr. Morgenthau to sort out.
Do you know how long he's had the weapons for and where they came from?
Not at this juncture. That would be part of the ongoing investigation to trace those weapons. Yeah, as I indicated, that we believe at the time of the shooting, at least 2 weapons were used, based on ballistics evidence. As to how many he had in the vehicle that versus other locations, I've already indicated that we have recovered a total of 4 at the various locations.
And they were both 9mm weapons, two in the vehicle?
And I think I gave a fairly specific listing of weapons we've recovered as to what may or may not have been in the vehicle at the time of the shooting. We'll attempt to determine that through the continuing
Did you recover the weapons
investigation.
involved in the shooting, Commissioner?
I'm sorry?
Did you recover the weapons involved in the shooting?
We are comfortable that we have developed very good ballistics evidence. I'd like to stay away from some specifics.
Commissioner, those ballistics match the...
No,
Commissioner, do you have any other suspects?
I've indicated that we are quite comfortable that the individual responsible for the action that occurred yesterday on the Brooklyn Bridge, the shooter, is in custody. As to other elements of this case, that is the subject of the ongoing investigation. At this juncture, repeating what the mayor and I have been saying right from the start, we are not going to rule out anything at this juncture, that we're going to continue the investigation to rule out things as fast as we can, but many options remain open right now.
How many other questioning at this time?
There are a number of individuals that we are questioning, that we are continuing to receive information, and as we get that information, they will be questioned.
Commissioner, would it be correct to say that you're not ruling out the possibility of a terrorist conspiracy in retaliation for what happened in Israel?
We are not ruling out anything at this juncture. One of the reasons for the immediate involvement of the FBI Joint Terrorist Task Force was to conduct a, if you will, a parallel review of the materials in the event that any of our investigation led in that direction. At this juncture, we have not gone in that direction.
$30,000 reward money that was put up last night?
That would have to be determined by the appropriate entities in terms of how that money could be, if it's applied for one, and two, there's three sums of money involved, and the requirements for obtaining those funds would have to be met. That's a little farther down the line.
In response to Gabe's question, you just said that the FBI was brought in on the possibility that they were doing some kind of parallel investigation into the question of whether or not there was a conspiracy. And you said that evidence is not led in that direction. Your precise words were, at this juncture, we are not going in that direction. We assume that means that you are leaning towards not believing that there is a...
This investigation at this juncture is within the jurisdiction and the purview of the New York City Police Department and Mr. Morgenthau's office, a local matter, the investigation that we are conducting at this juncture.
Bob, I think we're going to get involved in giving the wrong impression. The department has not ruled out or ruled in a conspiracy. They're investigating that. They have presented, the district attorney has presented to court what has been amassed so far, and that is rather remarkable that so much has been done in this period of time. At this point, all of the rest of it is under investigation, so it would give the wrong impression to try to weight that one way or the other. That is something that is being looked at.
You haven't ruled out, Mr. Mayor.
Or ruled in.
Or ruled in the possibility of a conspiracy, that this was a hit. That was in retaliation.
And I ask you to be careful in how you present that, because it means exactly what it says. We haven't ruled it out, and we haven't ruled it in.
Does that mean that the Jewish community should remain concerned that there may be people out there with guns who are looking for them?
I think the Jewish community, first of all, I know, because I've spoken to many people, and you see many here, are very satisfied with the way in which this investigation has been handled. The police department has gotten to the first phase of it in a much faster, and as I said before, in a stunning way. And the second part of it, to be done responsibly, requires detailed investigation. That is all being done, and there should be a great deal of confidence that a department that could catch the alleged shooter as quickly as this department, and a system that could bring the alleged shooter to the point of charges being filed in 24 hours, is a system that will do a very good job of looking at all of the rest of it.
If you believe this not to have been a traffic altercation, is it fair to say then that this man did have a sound motive?
The comment on motive is that motive is being investigated, and there is no comment on what his motive is. At this point, that's being investigated.
His age, his religious background, his age.
Spontaneous.
That is being investigated. The presence of those weapons should give you some indication of the answer to that.
And if you tell us the weapon, how old is he?
Where were the weapons found?
The age of Mr. Baz, I believe I indicated, was, and just check to be sure. Mr. Baz is 28 years of age. The weapons were found, I indicated there were 4 search warrants executed. I prefer not at this juncture to indicate where the 4 weapons and the stun gun that we have recovered, where they were, in diverse places. I'd prefer not to comment on any other items that may have been obtained or that we are seeking to obtain at this juncture.
Did he resist arrest, Commissioner?
He did not, I don't believe.
You know what time he was taken into custody?
John, I believe that was both early morning hours this morning. Early morning hours this morning.
Any other cities
Be on alert.
Any American city at this juncture has to have some nature of alert, as this city has clearly indicated. But that's a choice they have to make. We clearly have raised our state of readiness based on what's going on in the world at large, and more specifically what's happening right here now, the World Trade Center. So that's an unfortunate fact of life, having to be on the alert.
Mr. Mayor, as far as the protection of the citizens of New York is concerned, how do you feel that stands now?
I feel terrific. I think New York City can be very, very proud of the way in which its police department acted. It demonstrated the very finest in law enforcement, and that same capacity and capability that existed to investigate this aspect of the case so quickly is the same capacity and expertise that is being used to keep the people of this city safe. So the people of the city can be very, very confident in their police department, and that every reasonable and responsible thing is being done to check out every possibility here, and also to, out of an excess of caution, provide the kind of security that people of the city need. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank very much the public officials who are not only here, but who have helped us in the effort to explain what is going on and to keep the city together. Speaker Vallone, who was here yesterday and has worked with us, Controller Hevesy, Mark Green, the public advocate, Assemblyman Dov Heiken, Council Member Noach Deer, and here we have Borough President Howard Golden and Borough President Claire Schulman, Councilwoman Mary Pinkett, who is here. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, since you are not ruling out conspiracy, what would you say to the people in the Lubavitcher community, Hasidics, and others in the
What
city?
I would say is what I said before. Leave it to the legal system that has acted so well and so effectively to get us to this point. Leave it to them to investigate this and to make a determination as to whether or not there are other persons that were involved in any aspect of this, as to what the motivation was, if that can be determined. They need realistically some time in order to do that.
How this investigation differ from the one when the World Trade Center was blown out, explosion?
I can't distinguish investigations, investigations are all very, very different, and there's no point in really doing that.
But in that one didn't take long for the police to get the people who did it, or alleged.
I don't understand the point. I mean, the point is that the New York City Police Department turned this investigation around in literally half a day, and that's pretty remarkable. And they are entitled to credit for that. The fact is that the New York City Police Department has done that on many occasions, which is why it's called the finest police department in the United States. Sometimes we don't appreciate it enough. This is a good opportunity to appreciate the police department.
Mr. Mayor, even in light of all the good police work, can you address the fears some people have that this city has now become theater of operations for terrorists that operated in the 70s? And
I think that the police department and the law enforcement community have made a point for us that is a very, very helpful one. Any place in America and any place in the world, as we've seen, can be the theater for crime, however you want to describe it. The New York City Police Department has demonstrated that if you're going to attempt to use our streets for this kind of carnage, the most effective police department in America is going to search for you. It's going to have a really good chance of catching you and finding you and putting you right into the legal system where you're going to have to answer for that. That is what the law provides for us as the single best alternative to uncivilized and barbaric behavior. And they made it happen, and they made it happen very quickly. That is a very effective deterrent. And now we have a district attorney's office with skill, expertise, and leadership handling the further investigation and presentation of this case. So the people of the city, I think, can be very secure. And this is a heck of a signal to send to people that would try to come here or are here and want to do this kind of damage to us.
A question for Rabbi Hecht, if I may, sir. You were standing here next to the mayor and the police commissioner, and Ari Haberstam was obviously so gravely wounded in the hospital now. Your thoughts on the arrest of the man who allegedly shot?
I would like to begin by saying something to another question that was asked. I believe that the Jewish community at large is extremely confident with the police. We had a briefing from the police department this morning. We all walked away very satisfied that everything is being done to protect our houses of worship, our homes, the people on the street, shopping centers, schools, etc. So we are extremely satisfied with the job of the police commissioner and the police department. We are extremely confident that they're doing everything to protect us. We also are in tremendous gratitude to the police department for a swift and and really tremendous job that they have already shown. And I think it's all due to the leadership of our great mayor. I was earlier on today at the hospital, and when I received news, I let the Halberstam family know that an arrest has been made. It's calmed them somewhat. It's made them feel somewhat at peace. They are struggling. Their son, unfortunately, has been pronounced by the medical staff as brain dead. It's a very difficult time. There are halachic Jewish law pertaining to what can and cannot be done. Halachic Jewish law pertaining to what can and cannot be done as far as having a person on life support systems. And therefore, we are going through, the family going through a very difficult time. In one hand, we're in tremendous pain and our heart cries. On the other hand, we are very overjoyed that the mayor's office and the police department showed us that this is the #1 priority to them, that the gunman was caught. And we are confident that the department is going to continue and do any investigation necessary to find other people that are, or bring it to exactly where it has to be brought. So we are extremely satisfied, and I talk for the Hasidic community, and I think I can say for the entire Jewish community.
Rabbi, I also want to thank Rabbi Spielman, who is here with us, Rabbi Butner, Rabbi Nachman, who have all worked very, very hard on this.
Understand that this is a tremendous job of law enforcement, a tremendous job of police work. Motive is still under investigation. So far, they have one man in custody and a huge arsenal of deadly weapons. He's a Lebanese national named Rashid Baz. In terms of the victims, 4 wounded. One of them is legally brain dead. One lives with a very poor prognosis of recovery. One is wounded. One was injured by flying glass. Nothing is ruled in, nothing is ruled out, says the mayor and the police commissioner in terms of the motive. That will remain for investigation by District Attorney Morgenthau. I would tell you that we'll be back with Oprah, where we will...
...arrives packing wind, rain, and even more snow. And police say they have a man in custody and the weapons used in yesterday's shootings of Hasidic students on the Brooklyn Bridge. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Roz Abrams. After around-the-clock detective work, police say they have charged a Lebanese national with attempted murder in connection with the shootings. Acting on tips, they traced the suspect and his car to a garage in Brooklyn, and then they searched a nearby apartment. Police recovered 3 guns they say were used in the shootings, and Mayor Giuliani says the motive is still unclear. In Brooklyn, there are prayers for the victims. One has been declared brain dead. The prognosis for another is poor. Our coverage of this story begins with Sarah Wallace live at City Hall. Sarah.
Well, Roz, at a City Hall news conference here a short time ago, we learned more about the suspected gunman. He is 28-year-old Rashid Baz of Brooklyn. He came to this country as a student national, a Lebanese national, back in 1984. But whether or not he acted alone yesterday or was part of a terrorist conspiracy is still under investigation. Police are questioning several other people, but they do believe they have the shooter. This Brooklyn body shop was apparently the key to Baz's undoing when he allegedly pumped bullet after bullet through the windows of the white van carrying more than a dozen yeshiva students yesterday. The shooter shattered the glass of his own car. When he took it into the body shop, someone got suspicious of the empty shell casings littering the floor and called police. Ballistics reportedly matched those casings with some at the crime scene. Cops believe that Baz fired 2 different 9mm weapons in 3 separate outbursts as he chased the van across the Brooklyn Bridge. In search warrants conducted at Baz's home on 45th Street in Brooklyn and other locations, police found a total of 4 weapons.
A 9mm Luger Cobra submachine pistol with some 50 rounds of ammunition and a silencer for the same weapon, a loaded 9mm Glock semi-automatic pistol, a fully loaded 12-gauge semi-automatic shotgun, commonly known as a street sweeper, loaded with a dozen 12-gauge shotgun shells, a .380 fully loaded semi-automatic weapon, a bulletproof vest, and a stun gun.
One thing we know was that this man was the weapons described by the police commissioner was not going deer hunting.
At a late afternoon news conference, law enforcement officials refused to comment on Baz's possible motive.
The department has not ruled out or ruled in a conspiracy. They're investigating that. They have presented, the district attorney has presented to court what has been amassed so far. And that is rather remarkable that so much has been done in this period of time.
Tonight, Rashid Baz is being held at the 7th Precinct. He is charged with 15 counts of attempted murder as well as assault and weapons charges. And if the young man dies in St. Vincent's Hospital, likely those counts will go to murder. Reporting live from City Hall, Sarah Wallace, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
One of the big questions now is just who is the man that police have arrested. Rashid Baz lived in this house in Brooklyn. The Lebanese national has been in the United States since 1984 when he entered this country on a student visa. Coming up on Eyewitness News at 6, Celeste Ford takes us into the suspect's neighborhood for a more revealing look at who he is.
The act of one gunman has forever changed lives. The victims and their families and many others will never be the same. Tim Fleischer is live at St. Vincent's Hospital, where doctors watch over the wounded students and grief-stricken families are praying for a miracle. Tim?
And Greg, the round-the-clock vigil goes on by the families of the Hasidic students here at St. Vincent's Hospital. But despite their prayers and their hopes, the prognosis for these two young men is not encouraging.
He is in a very critical condition.
And so, Meadow Sasonkin can do little at this point as his brother Nachum barely clings to life.
By us as Jews, we more than believe that our hope and prayers are going to help his speedy recovery.
He had one bullet which passed through the back part of his brain called the cerebellum. It also went through other parts of the skull and into the temporal lobe, which is on the side of the head.
But after 5 hours of surgery, doctors say Nachum's prognosis is very poor.
If a sharp sword is on your throat, do not despair. As long as a person's alive, as long as a person is breathing, he is to have faith and hope that God's going to help him out of his trouble.
In a nearby room, the family of the second victim, Aaron Halberstam, took a call from President Clinton.
Both were very, very emotional when they spoke to the president, and they were very happy that the president took out time out of his busy schedule to express his good wishes and prayers on behalf of their children.
But tests have come back with grim results.
Mr. Halberstrand no longer has brain function. Because of the family's wishes and beliefs, we are continuing all life support measures.
And tonight, a third victim. His name is Levi Wilhelm, who was shot once in the abdomen, is in stable condition this evening at a Brooklyn hospital. And we're live at St. Vincent's Hospital in Greenwich Village. Tim Fleischer, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Tim, the conditions of those severely wounded students leaves the Brooklyn Hasidic community in mourning tonight. Bertha Coombs is live in Crown Heights with the very latest. Bertha.
Roz, this is certainly a difficult time for the entire Hasidic community here in Crown Heights, but it is especially difficult for the young students who survived the attack on the van and for their classmates at their school. For them, this was another difficult and very emotional day when prayer was the only source of any kind of peace. As Yaakov Shapiro headed to synagogue to pray this morning, he was thankful to be alive and glad to know someone had been arrested for the vicious attack on his school's van. He says he's not surprised that the suspect is of Arabic descent.
Because that's what went through my mind right away when I fell down there in the van. I right away thought right away it was Arab. It went through my mind and all of our minds.
Why did you think that right away?
What's going on now in the Middle East and all this.
Shapiro was the least injured of 4 young Hasidic students who were shot at as they traveled in their school van on the Brooklyn Bridge. At their school today, classrooms were more than half empty. And though some students tried to study, they say it was difficult to concentrate, knowing 2 of their classmates are in the hospital.
I felt that maybe I'll study a bit today, learn a bit, get a bit of solace and comfort from books.
The school's principal says the emphasis now is on counseling for all of the boys.
Myself and the other staff members will be becoming much more informal with them over the next period of time, to blend in with them and listen to them, give them every opportunity to express how they feel.
For Yaakov Shapiro's mother, the important lesson now is understanding.
You cannot be neurotic. We are believing people, we are good people, and we pray for peace, and we know that most of the people in the world are good people.
Indeed, Mrs. Shapiro says no one can understand what kind of evil would prompt this. The one thing we all have to do now is pray for those who are injured. We are live in Crown Heights. I'm Bertha Kuhn, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
You know, Brooklyn also has a very large Arab-American community, and there's been tension there as well since yesterday's violence. Senior correspondent John Johnson met with residents to get reaction to the shootings. John?
Greg, feelings and emotions by many Arabs and Jews in their communities are extremely sensitive, and obviously for the terrible events that have happened in the last several days. In Brooklyn's Arab community this afternoon, I found people who weren't that surprised that the alleged gunman of these Jewish students was an Arab.
Doesn't make any sense. Why one might act it?
As the word spread along Brooklyn's Atlantic Avenue that a Lebanese national had been arrested in connection with a bloody attack on a van of Hasidic students yesterday, people weren't too willing to talk about it, other than saying they were still mad about the mosque massacre of Palestinians in the Israeli-occupied West Bank.
Everybody is mad about that.
While police kept a highly visible and watchful eye in this Arab community, some residents were warning there could be more violence. Can the cycle of violence be stopped?
No.
A kind of deep anger and resentment was apparent on Atlantic Avenue as Arabs complained that the violent deaths of Palestinians didn't seem to matter much to the world. Are you surprised that it was an Arab gunman, allegedly, who shot these poor Jewish students in retaliation?
No, I'm not.
You're not surprised?
Nah. People in Palestine, they're dying every day, man. What? You start saying like a Jew guy just died today. Now it's a big deal. What about the people dying over there? I mean, like, it's not just one. Like 20 every day.
Despite some anger and resentment by some Arabs, Mayor Giuliani was at City Hall praising the Arab community for their assistance in solving the Brooklyn Bridge shootings.
I also thank those who called in, who helped us, who gave assistance in so many different ways, both in the investigation and in keeping the city calm, in particular in the Arab community.
Now, many of the Arab Americans out in Brooklyn suggested that there should be an end to violence and hard feelings, but no one knew quite how to do that.
All right, JJ, thanks.
John, how has the new mayor responded to this crisis? He has been very involved, very visible. Political correspondent Pat Dawson is live at City Hall with more on the mayor's role. Pat.
Ross, if this was an early test of the mayor's ability to respond to a crisis, you certainly couldn't accuse him of a failure to communicate, or for that matter, a failure to appreciate just how serious the consequences would be if he failed. And there were 5 formal press conferences in the last 24 hours and a continuous effort to keep the lid on in what could be a tense time in the life of the city. From repeated high-profile meetings with Jewish leaders to members of the Community Assistance Unit working the streets and schools in Brooklyn, the Giuliani administration has spared no effort to keep the peace in the wake of yesterday's shooting. With the announcement today that the shooter was an Arab, the mayor pointedly urged New Yorkers not to read too much into that.
This act of evil is not the act of a people, it's the act of a person or persons.
Giuliani aides readily acknowledged that their carefully calculated public and private response was an attempt to avoid being overtaken by events, citing the experience of Mayor Dinkins in Crown Heights. The community efforts were aimed at stopping rumors and speculation about the attacker's identity and what his possible motive was. Most representatives of the Jewish community had praise for the administration's handling of the matter.
So we are extremely satisfied with the job of the police commissioner and the police department. We are extremely confident that they're doing everything to protect us.
The other thing that is worth mentioning, I think, is probably the almost intimate connection between City Hall and the police department throughout these 30 hours of crisis, for lack of a better word, and it has been very well coordinated. Live at City Hall, Pat Dawson, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Pat. Recapping this developing story, a suspect has been charged with attempted murder in connection with the shooting of Hasidic students yesterday. Police say a number of weapons were found in the Brooklyn home of Lebanese national Rashid Baz. Baz was arrested 24 hours after the shooting that left one man brain dead and another very critically wounded. Police refused to comment on a motive or a link to the massacre in a mosque in Israel last Friday. Police say others are being questioned, but they believe that Baz acted alone.
And now our other big story.
On 15 charges of attempted murder, assault, and weapons possession. The police are not yet saying why he allegedly did it.
Police say this is the face of the madman who allegedly launched his own deadly attack on a van full of young innocents, an Arab accused of opening fire on Orthodox Hasidic Jews. Rashid Baz, a 28-year-old livery cab driver in Brooklyn from Beirut, Lebanon, is charged with strafing this Lubavitcher van carrying more than a dozen yeshiva students as it drove across the Brooklyn Bridge. 4 of the religious young men were wounded, 2 critically. One of them, 16-year-old Ari Haberstam, has been declared brain dead.
The massive and swift response of our city has sent a signal that our streets are not open to bloodshed and our communities will not tolerate hatred. We're saying as a community that if you violate us, as this shooting violated every one of us, the largest and most effective police department in the United States will use every lawful technique to track you down. And when this police department is motivated to act, there is nothing quite like it in law enforcement. Their response here can only be described as stunning.
In any case like this, the one thing we know is that this man with the weapons described by the police commissioner was not going deer hunting.
But was Baz hunting for Hasidics? For now, authorities are not revealing why he allegedly committed this revolting and unspeakable act, and are saying they are not ready to tie Baz to an organized terrorist conspiracy that may have targeted Jews as revenge for Friday's mosque massacre. Police sources tell Fox News Baz claims the van cut him off. But we have also learned that anti-Jewish political pamphlets were found in Baz's Brooklyn apartment.
Commissioner, is there any indication that he was part of perhaps a political group, that he had a political motive for this? Is there any indication he was part of what's been happening?
The investigation is continuing. A number of items were recovered during our respective searches, and we'll continue to explore all options in this matter.
The department has not ruled out or ruled in a conspiracy. They're investigating that.
Ironically, this is what led police to Baz. The empty passenger side window of his blue 1978 Chevy Impala, the glass blown out when he allegedly blasted the van with his 2 9mm guns. Baz tried to get the window repaired at this Brooklyn auto body shop, and police credit members of the city's Arab community with tipping off police. It was inside his apartment building that police say they found this deadly arsenal of weapons: a loaded 9mm Luger submachine gun with 50 rounds and a silencer, and a loaded 9mm Glock pistol that sources say he fired into the van more than 16 times. They also found an automatic shotgun, a .380 semi-automatic, a bulletproof vest, and a stun gun. 2 other suspects have also been nabbed, accused of helping Baz get rid of the car and guns: 32-year-old Haile Mohammed and 27-year-old Bassem Rayadi. Jewish leaders hailed a swift arrest.
We should not hold our guard down and just look around us to make sure that these acts are not going to continue to happen. The investigation must continue, that while we all wish that this could be the end of violence in America and in New York, we all doubt that it will be.
Sources tell us the 9mm shell casings found in Baz's car and on the Brooklyn Bridge match bullets from the 9mm weapons recovered from Baz's building. His quick arrest has brought relief, but also tonight concerns that he could be part of a wider threat to some New Yorkers because of their faith. John?
All right, Eric, thanks for that report. Cora?
Now, Rosanna Scotto tells us what she has learned about the suspected gunman.
Rashid Baz ignored reporters' questions as he was led away in handcuffs. Those that knew him were equally evasive when questioned about him. Baz lives in this row house in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. Neighbors say he kept to himself in this racially mixed neighborhood. This is also where police found a cache of weapons, not too comforting to the people living around him.
I've been here 31 years, and nothing like this happened over here.
Everybody knows each other around here, and everybody mind their own business, that's all.
Baz worked at Pioneer Car Service in Red Hook, Brooklyn, where the door was padlocked. The car that he allegedly drove when he shot at the Hasidic students was registered to the car service. Some of those who were his passengers saw him after the shooting.
He was very happy. I didn't see nothing different in him, because you can tell when a person changes. I didn't see nothing. I've seen him the way he usually does. Usually is very quiet, does his job, and that's it.
Not much is known about Rashid Baz, except that he lives in Brooklyn, is 28 years old, Lebanese, and came to this country 10 years ago on a student visa. Now he sits in jail charged with a bloody attack
on Hasidic students. Rosanna Scotto, Fox News, Brooklyn.
This is Jeff Weiser in Crown Heights, Brooklyn.
By the grace of God, we are very grateful for our personal miracle. But it's a very bittersweet thankfulness because there are mothers who are grieving for the very deep pain that their children are undergoing now.
With her wounded son and husband by her side, Mrs. Frida Shapiro spoke of her own good fortune, but the pain she feels for two of her son's friends who cling to life with near-fatal bullet wounds to the head. Yaakov Shapiro was treated for scalp and arm wounds and released from the hospital, but two others are in grave condition. Doctors at St. Vincent's Hospital in Manhattan declared 16-year-old Aaron Halberstam brain dead after a series of neurological tests. They say it's impossible he'll recover, but for now his family requests that he remain on life support systems, as rabbis would have it.
The giver of life and death is God. As long as there is a heartbeat, we shall try to do everything we can for the full recovery of Mr. Halberstam. Not with all due respect to the doctor, as I said, it's God-given, and we're all praying. We hope that you all are praying for both of their complete recovery.
I'm quoting now from the Talmud that if a sharp sword is on your throat, do not despair. As long as the person's alive, as long as the person is breathing, he is to have faith and hope that God's going to help him out of his trouble.
Posner's nephew, 18-year-old Nachum Sasankin, is also in extremely critical condition. Doctors say it's unlikely he'll survive and that he suffered brain damage when one bullet passed through the back of his head. But despite the dire prediction, his family is optimistic.
Well, of course it's difficult, but we have a great hope that, please God, he'll be, fully recovered. So it's a hope together with pain.
Leaders of the ultra-Orthodox Lubavitch movement say Sholem Wilhelm is the hero in this tragic incident. He drove the bullet-riddled vehicle to safety.
I would like to thank God for helping me save the remaining passengers, including myself. I also like to wish my brother a speedy and full recovery.
Wilhelm's brother Levi was shot in the rear and remains in stable condition at Brooklyn General Hospital.
We should all get healed. Our city should heal. The world should heal.
In the wake of the shooting, Jewish education groups are offering counseling to yeshiva students and their families in and around the Crown Heights area. From Crown Heights, Brooklyn, this is Jeff Weiser, Fox News.
Well, there are some cases where religious tension has some tempers ready to snap in our city. So tonight, religious leaders called on everyone to come together and pray for peace. Arabs, Jews, Christians, they all got together at a mosque on the Upper East Side, and they're asking Mayor Giuliani to create a new position, a person who would serve as a liaison to all religions to try to keep the peace.
The tensions are running much higher in the community, and the fanatics are getting much more press, media attention than those moderates and spiritual leaders who work from their hearts and have much wider audiences. We need to get those people to come forward.
Well, security was extra tight at the prayer service. 24 police officers patrolled the mosque. And a lot of the Lubavitch Jews who live in Crown Heights tell us they're extremely satisfied with the way the mayor and the police have handled the investigation so far, but they are still not resting easily. They consider the shooting an act of terrorism against all Jews. And they've asked the guardian angels to help the police keep the peace in their neighborhood. And one rabbi told us you can be sure Jews will retaliate, but peacefully.
Yes, we will retaliate, but the right way, the way the Rebbe has taught us how to retaliate, by an increase in study, an increase in good deeds, an increase in charity, and an increase in prayer.
President Clinton called the family of one of the young men who was wounded, Aaron Halberstam. Mr. Clinton called it a spasm of brutal violence, and he commended the New York Police Department for their quick work in arresting the suspects. The anger is still boiling over in the occupied lands. Coming up, we'll tell you about the latest violence there.
Also, new trouble for Kimberly Mays.